I ask all those in the chamber to please be upstanding for the opening prayer. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to vouchsafe Thy blessing upon this council, direct and proper its deliberations to the advancement of Thy glory and the true welfare of the people of the City of Whittlesea Council. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be Thy name. Thy kingdom come, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For Thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The councillors of the City of Whittlesea were dismissed by an Act of the State Parliament in March. Lydia Wilson was then appointed Interim Administrator for 90 days. And on the 19th of June 2020, the Acting Minister for Local Government, Daniel Andrews, appointed the panel of administrators and appointed Lydia Wilson as Chair of the panel. I'd like to now hand over to the Chair of the panel of administrators, Lydia Wilson.
Thank you very much, Acting Chief Executive Officer. On behalf of the City of Whittlesea, I recognise the rich Aboriginal heritage of this country and acknowledge the Wurundjeri Willem clan as the traditional owners of this place. I'd also like to personally acknowledge elders past, present and emerging. As the Chief Executive Officer mentioned, a panel of administrators was appointed on the 19th of June 2020 and will remain in place to act as the Council of the City of Whittlesea until the October 2024 elections. I'm extremely honoured to be continuing on as Administrator at the City of Whittlesea in the role of Chair of the panel. And I'd like to warmly welcome and introduce my fellow administrators, the Honourable Bruce Bilson. This special council meeting to adopt the 2020-2021 budget and the council plan was adjourned from its original date of the 25th of June, as that date was only a few days after the panel was appointed. The panel has now been comprehensively briefed on the budget and the council plan. We've had an opportunity to review all of the papers and to ask our respective questions of the acting CEO and the relevant directors. And we're now ready to proceed with the business of the meeting. I note all administrators are present. Administrators will now work through the agenda document. I note our procedural matters local law doesn't easily provide flexibility for administrators to speak to matters if there's no opposition. So I move that we suspend standing orders to allow all administrators with an opportunity to speak to matters in the notice paper if they wish, without the need to indicate opposition for the purpose of debate. Can I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion carried. Item 4.1.1, Adoption of the Council Plan 2017 to 2021, Update 2020, A Place for All, and I would like to move this item from the Chair. Do I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Bilson. I'd like to raise a couple of initial questions to the Acting CEO. My first question, Acting CEO, is that I note that there were no submissions from the community to the Council Action Plan 2020-21. Could you please outline what engagement there had been with the community in respect of the plan?
Thank you, Chair. The draft Council Action Plan went out for public exhibition alongside the draft annual budget for 2021, which did attract 14 submissions. The exhibition period commenced at the same time as the COVID-19 shutdowns across the state were in force, and so it did negate the opportunity for face-to-face engagement, and also the placement of the document in public venues such as our civic centre or libraries, which would normally have been the case. However, we extended the formal consultation period by a further 2 weeks, taking it to a total of 6 weeks on exhibition, to give people the extra time to consider the documents and submit a formal response. The documents were also available on our website for comment, and we did advertise the public consultation period in the Age newspaper, 2 local newspapers, our social media channels, and various community service announcements. We had the occasion also on a local FM Plenty Valley radio station to promote the invitation to the community through our Director of Corporate Services providing a session on the topic. We've directed people to our public consultation of both documents also via mail-outs to the 80,000 households across our city, and also to our 1,100 subscribers on the e-newsletter. So in total, a comprehensive attempt at, under difficult circumstances, to provide more opportunity and longer periods of opportunity for the community.
Thank you, Acting CEO, for the comprehensive response. And I've got a second question which is related. I note that the new Local Government Act 2020 has got very specific requirements within it regarding community engagement, and noting that in fact we will be developing a whole new council plan at the beginning of next year, I wondered if you could perhaps just cover for us what is proposed by way of community engagement.
Thank you, Chair. And as you quite rightly point out, an important tenet of the new Local Government Act 2020 is the force towards enhancing meaningful community engagement across the sector. So to this extent, the Act will require us as Council to develop a new community engagement policy in early 2021 that reflects a deliberative approach to well-informed community engagement and participation. We look forward to the panel of administrators being involved in setting the City of Whittlesea's future 4-year vision, and in consultation, of course, with the organisation, but importantly our community. In response to this welcome development, Council looks forward to exploring the type and form of engagement the community wants, as well as adopting guidelines around how community engagement will inform and influence our decision making. So this is a great new frontier for the sector, and administrators, there is without doubt a good amount of work to be done in this space to ensure that we can use and produce effective strategic planning that has the essence of our community at the heart and its interests best served. So we look forward in a very transparent and open way to Council working towards its plan for 2022 to 26, being the one that this panel will adopt in its own right for the first time in the future.
Thank you, Acting CEO. And we also very much look forward to being part of that process with the development of the new council plan. Are there any further questions from my colleagues? Administrator Bilson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you to the Chief Executive. End of the current 4-year cycle, preparation for the new 4-year plan, but it's not as if that's a completely fresh slate. My understanding is that'll be framed by this vision document, themes and priorities that the community has seen before, and we'll carry that forward in the next 4-year action plan.
Through you, thank you for the comment and follow-up, Administrator Bilson. Absolutely correct. The 4,000 contributions from the community that went into setting the original community vision document called Whittlesea 2040 is our fundamental structure for going forward and building on that and refining that. So, absolutely.
Thank you. Are there any further questions?
No, Chair.
Thank you. So in moving this motion, I would like to make a few comments. I note that this council action plan represents the final year in our 4-year council plan cycle, and that, as you already indicated, Acting CEO, there's been very extensive community consultation arising from the development of Whittlesea 2040, which has been incorporated into the action plan. But I would like to highlight a few key aspects that are of particular community benefit. And they are a key focus on leadership and support in promoting social inclusion for people of all ages and abilities living within the municipality. The state-of-the-art Mill Park Leisure Centre, which is due for completion in early 2021. Phase 1 of the Findon Road Ferris Boulevard intersection upgrade and extension to Plenty Road, which will certainly ease congestion and improve traffic flows in that busy area of South Morang. The outcomes of our very active advocacy work resulting in a number of key local infrastructure projects that have been either fully or partially funded by the state government. And examples of those are a new school to be built in Woolert East and Stage 2 works at Edgars Creek Secondary, the much-needed O'Hearns Road Hume Freeway interchange, and a new town centre for Mernda. There's a number of climate change and integrated water management initiatives that are very dear to my heart that are included within the council plan, and they're aimed at ensuring that we future-proof the municipality from an environmental sustainability perspective. And these include things such as the protection of local biodiversity, additional trees for cooling and shading, initiatives to reduce community but also our own use in relation to waste, water and energy, and other climate change actions. We've got a key focus on upgrading our parks, gardens and recreation reserves. And last but not least, initiatives to grow our local economy and local jobs. And we know, all of us, that that's going to be even more critical now as a result of the impacts of COVID-19. So perhaps just in concluding, can I really convey my thanks to all of the staff across the organisation for their tireless efforts and dedication, irrespective of the adversity that they have been facing, to deliver on Council's commitments and community priorities. And if I could ask you, Acting CEO, to ensure that that appreciation is passed on to our staff. Thank you.
Gladly do so, Chair.
Are there any other comments from administrators? I'll now put the item to a vote. All those in favour? All those against? The motion is carried unanimously. Item 4.1.2, Declaration of Rates and Adoption of 2020-2021 Budget. And again, administrators, I would like to move this item from the chair. So could I have a seconder?
Yes, Chair.
Thank you, Administrator Duncan. Are there any questions?
Chair, through you to the Chief Executive. Could you outline the process and the impact of the community submission process and how it's reflected in the budget that's proposed today?
Thank you, Administrator Bilson, through you, Chair. The budget submission process brought to the table... Sorry? The budget submission process brought to the table 14 submissions across a range of community initiatives. In its consideration of the submissions, Council committed direct resource supports amounted to $150,200 of additional net expenditure to the budget as it was published. In addition to the net expenditure, though, Council's commitment to submitters also includes in-kind support of an advisory nature, both to assist in facilitating other potential funding sources that may be available to submitters, but also in the further development of their submissions. And as a consequence of absorbing the agreed financial commitments, the 2020-21 budget still maintains a targeted achievement of a balanced full-year result.
Are there any further administrator questions?
Yes, Chair, through you to the Acting CEO. Does this budget account for the revenue loss incurred during the COVID-19 pandemic and impact on our community?
Thank you, Administrator Duncan, for the question. Through you, Chair. We have had early experience in the current financial year just ended on some of the consequences of our response efforts and where they will go. But in truth, the full extent of the impacts of COVID-19 in terms of the council budget going forward are very early. It's very early to tell what the full extent will be of those consequences. But our early advice around hardship policy extension into the community, both residents and businesses have the opportunity to engage with the hardship policy. But we've attracted 70 or so requests to date, and these are basically payment plan requests or deferral requests for rates and fees. But as the broader economic impacts of COVID-19 play out later in the year, Council will be monitoring closely the extent to which both its expenditure and revenue is being affected. And there will be the likelihood that material impacts to our budget may arise, in which case Council will be in a position to review a material change to our budget if that is the case. But importantly, I'd like to just conclude that the current budget as it stands is providing a continuation of essential and important services to our community. It also lays a foundation for important key infrastructure works that are heralded in the papers and those developments that attach to the community benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting CEO. Are there any further questions? Administrator Bilson.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, if I may. One question, two parts. Pleasingly in the budget, there's two town centre streetscape projects, Thomastown and Laylaw. And with what's happening with the COVID constraints on local traders, I'm just keen that we're hyper alert to the fact that these works, as welcome as they are, may cause further disruption and obstacles for customers. Could we make sure we take that into account with our planning for that work so that its impact is as minimal as it can be on local traders in those areas already doing it pretty tough?
Through you, Chair. Thank you, Administrator Bilson. And I think your observations are very correct. In an already difficult situation for many of our small and medium-sized businesses across the city, the last thing we want to do is impose another layer of interruption. So it is our commitment, and on notice I will take that advice in following through a close working relationship with our businesses, and particularly in those two town centres looking at streetscape redevelopment. Thank you.
Thank you. If there's no further questions, I would like to make some summing up comments. I believe that this is a very responsible budget that reflects the difficult times that we're all in very well. It shows consideration to the recovery effort we have ahead of us with regards to the significant impacts of COVID-19, and also that there are many members of our community and our businesses that have been and will continue to struggle into the future. There are a few budget provisions I would particularly highlight. Firstly, I'm most supportive of the $2 million pandemic fund, which has been earmarked for our recovery, and that will be co-designed by our residents, community groups, local businesses and clubs. And the fund will ensure that our investment is directed to those areas within our community that are most in need, which is very important. We have the COVID-19 financial hardship policy, which will provide relief to those in need from rates and fees and charges. $161,200 of additional funding for 5 very worthy projects, and the Acting CEO talked a little bit about those projects arising from the budget submissions that we received, together with our very active support and or redirection to other funding sources to the other organisations that submitted through the budget submission process. The decision not to pass on the additional waste collection charges, but rather cap them at the 2% instead of the real 20.9% additional cost. We've got a strong capital works program of $74 million, despite the unknowns of COVID-19, together with a further $10 million towards major infrastructure projects already underway, including new roads and better walking and cycling paths. We've got continued investment in kindergartens, which are vital services to our growing community, providing our 3- and 4-year-olds the best start to their education journey. And this includes the planned upgrade at McLean's Road and the new kindergarten opening for the start of 2021 at Thomastown Primary School. Several projects to stimulate economy and local businesses, and my colleague Administrator Bilson already touched on those, which is investment in the 2 streetscape projects at Thomastown and Laylaw to boost their vitality and appeal. Our food and waste recycling project, which is a fantastic environmental sustainability initiative that will be rolled out across the community to those who have a green waste bin. And finally, I would comment on the continued focus on organisational efficiency and cost containment. Would the seconder of the motion, Administrator Duncan, like to make any further comments?
No, thank you, Chair.
Any further comments? Administrator Bilson.
Thank you, Chair. Can I echo your observations? Absolutely astute in accounting for what a quality budget this is, and congratulations through you to the Chief Executive and the team. There's a couple of things I'd like to call out. There's a really rich, diverse range of projects that are in the budget, 31 new initiatives. Interesting how they address and span the whole nature of our community here, the more established areas in our south and the growth challenges in our north. Really thoughtful calibration of, a very diverse municipality. I think the balanced budget is a great outcome, displays a lot of rigour. I think that internal productivity dividend efficiency effort that's enabled funding to be made available for priorities is to be commended. And again, if you could pass on my congratulations. The loan borrowings are staying modest. The maintenance program is staying on top of a very substantial asset base, so we're not leaving that task for future generations in the organisation and the City of Whittlesea, the corporations, in good financial health. So I think that's terrific. The capital works budget, I would have been very pleased if we'd held that at the level we had last year, but notwithstanding the challenges of COVID, it's $5 million larger, which is a real investment in servicing our growing community, and the thoughtfulness around holding those waste collection charges at just a 2% increase and finding a way of absorbing what is clearly a big financial challenge of some millions in the budget papers is a real positive. The $2 million for co-design of COVID responses, excited about that. We're not quite sure where this is all going, but to have that funding envelope to be able to be so responsive, and I might flag my particular passion for supporting some of our hospitality businesses, using more of our footpaths and even creeping a few car parking spaces to make sure social distancing sits alongside helping those businesses maintain a level of activity that supports livelihoods and employment in our municipality. Very exciting there. Coming back to those high street projects in Laylaw and Thomastown, as I mentioned earlier, just a thoughtfulness towards their impact, and maybe we should look to be a small business friendly council. The Victorian Small Business Commissioner has identified that as a great attribute for many municipalities. Maybe that could be an early goal for us, and it makes sure we're always thinking about those smaller businesses and enterprising people that are doing it pretty tough. Local contractors, a delicious opportunity to make sure that a strength of our economic base is embraced in implementing the council program, so I'd encourage that as well. And last but not least, who could not mention the growth that's happening? People are voting with their feet to be a part of Whittlesea, and I know you laugh at me, opportunities are plenty, no valley intended. It's a great place and a place for all, and to see that infrastructure, transport infrastructure investment particularly that key east-west corridor, really important and a good result of effective advocacy with other levels of government. So I concur with you, Madam Chair, an excellent budget in challenging circumstances, setting up the city well for today and into the future, and one I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Administrator Bilson. I'll now put the item to the vote. All those in favour? All those against? The motion again was unanimously carried. There being no further business, I declare this meeting closed. Thank you.